of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
As it is 9/11, before making the announcements, I'd just like a brief moment of silence. Thank you. The announcements, the next regular meeting is scheduled for Friday, September 25th at 9 a.m. right here at the Community Center. And this is a good time to silence your cell phones if you haven't already done so. Going on to the agenda. The first item is the consent agenda. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve. Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Yeah, I got just one comment. I can't turn my phone. I went back over the cost of payroll and benefits in the restaurant. I repeat this every meeting, or every month. I guess I should do it again. The payroll versus the food and beverage revenues, and we still, for the last 5 or 6 months, have not been able to. The payroll has always exceeded the revenues. So, I mean, it comes as no surprise. We talk about this every month, but yet I have not seen anything ever done about it. I'm just going on record as saying it's getting ridiculous. If you wait for people to come in, you got a long wait. You should address your payroll and get it in line with the business that you're doing. Period. That's it.
I think I'd like to kind of second it in that I thought with our meeting with the heads of Casper, or whatever you are now, I expected significant change in the clubhouse. And what we have got is the same thing again, in my estimation. This is the same thing that I have seen for the past 5 years. And I'm very disappointed in what's going on so far. I see no change. Yeah, there's menu changes. I will say that maybe some of the service is better on certain times, but overall, I don't see it. It's the same type of changes that you've made over 5 years, and nothing ever changes the end result. That's all.
Amen.
Okay. Any further discussion? Any public comment? Call the call.
Supervisor Gilpin?
Yes.
Supervisor Brooks?
Yes.
Supervisor Branson?
Yes.
Supervisor Herrick?
Yes.
President Hotelling?
Yes. Okay. Moving on to the action agenda. The first item is public hearing resolution number 2020-911-26, a resolution of the Sun and Lake of Sebring Improvement District to establish and adopt a tentative budget for the fiscal year 2020-2021 based on the estimate of revenues and expenditures for district's general, utility, and golf funds, providing for conflicts, providing for severability, and providing an effective date. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any report from staff on this? Any discussion?
We can do just a quick highlight.
Okay.
So this is a tentative approval. This does include the established recreation rates, the assessment rates that we are recommending, which are the same as currently in place. So vacant unimproved lots will be at $140. A vacant improved lot that has a road, water, and sewer will be $350. And then every residential dwelling will be $700 with an extra $70 if they're on the golf course. So we're recommending no change to that. As far as the budget is concerned, this budget is coming in at a total of $11,339,650. We do have a balanced budget with an excess of $100,000, which we have allocated to go into the savings for the capital improvement fund. We did, from the last meeting, make one adjustment, which was to include the Aqua Tea project, which we added for $120,000. So that kind of rounds out the changes from the last meeting and where we currently stand as of this tentative approval.
Okay, just to clarify, the 100,000 that we've got going to capital is after the 120,000 for the equities or before?
It's after.
Okay.
Got one comment I'd like to address, and because it could impact this budget, and that is, you've come out with an edict that October 1, 2 people will ride in the carts. As of now, has there been any change from the community disease control about social distancing? And the reason I bring it up now as far as budget, do we maybe need to rent more carts in order to satisfy the need? I don't know what that need's going to be, but I do know there's people still out here that are concerned about social distancing and getting in a cart with somebody shoulder to shoulder.
I'll address that. The golf committee meeting I was told had, and they were discussing member carts. We've actually had, the public has been using double rider carts since about June 1, when the PGA, and the North Florida PGA said that it was okay to do it. I mean, not North Florida, but the Florida PGA recommended it, and the PGA went with it. Now, obviously, it is a recommended status. If someone wants a single rider cart, they get a single rider cart. But ultimately, you know, if we do want to look at renting extra carts, you know, at this point, we certainly can. I do not have the numbers in front of me to tell you how much that's going to cost. But part of my understanding is the golf committee meeting with the members and recommending going to double rider carts for members was to keep the course in outstanding condition. As far as if we increase cart traffic, there'll be areas that will not have grass just from wear and tear. Also, you know, if one group has single rider carts and one group doesn't, as double rider, it does cause pace of play issues. I mean, historically, members play faster anyways than the public because they're, you know, they just have more local knowledge of where they're going, what club to hit. They can grab the right clubs and go. So when we look at putting 2 people in public in a golf cart and the members are in single-use carts, it's certainly, you know, we hear about it more from the membership that, you know, the public is slow.
What I heard is that it was going to be implemented on October 1, where it's going to be 2 people to a cart. You suggested that it is not mandatory, that we can still go 1 to a cart.
My understanding is it's highly recommended. It's not mandatory.
Then that's what should be indicated, because what came out was you will ride 2 to a cart. And there's people that,
I haven't
for
seen that
health
published.
reasons, don't want to,
I understand.
and therefore they shouldn't have to.
Well, there's people that probably shouldn't. If they have underlying health conditions, they probably should not share. I mean, obviously, there's been a strong, where single-use carts are very convenient. People enjoy them. And then they go into the restaurant afterwards and all sit at 4 at a table and spend an hour together. So it's, you know, there's something there that I believe that the customers and the members are going to have to make their own decisions.
I'm not arguing a bit about that. What I'm arguing about is that it's not, what was put out so far is that it's mandatory. There was no exceptions based on that.
I have not seen what's put out.
Well, everything I've seen says it's going to be 2 to the cart come
Okay,
October 1.
Was it an email that you've seen?
That's
Or?
basically emails, and it was in the club report, clubhouse report that was just sent out.
Yeah, yes, it was.
I wrote it.
Wrote what?
I wrote the notes from the meeting. but I don't remember seeing that.
Not the golf meeting,
It was from
the
Mike.
club, out of the
Yeah.
clubhouse,
Oh, I
It's
don't
from-
remember.
club
Yeah.
report.
I would just suggest that, and I could be wrong, but we had this same problem when we started this, with decisions being made by Billy Casper or somebody, not this board.
Oh, come
And
on,
these are,
let's not go there.
these are stuff that you just can't, you know, I talked to Tanya about it yesterday. I've been getting calls about people with this being put out from the golf committee meeting that people had to ride to in a cart.
This is not a Billy Casper rule. This was my understanding of what came out of the golf committee.
Yeah, but what's that mean?
Okay, let me
That
clarify.
doesn't mean nothing.
Why don't we do this,
Let-
Mike? Why don't you tell us what the rules should be, and we'll consider it.
Well, the
Let's hear it.
decisions are made here, Ray.
Let's hear it.
The first thing,
Decisions are made
excuse me,
here.
the first
Let's
thing
hear it.
I would like to clarify, based on discussion that we had a few months ago when we reviewed the golf committee can discuss things, but they can't set policy. The golf committee can suggest to the general manager things that we might want to discuss at the board, but the recommendations, if they should even be making recommendations, carry no weight. They are things that we want to listen to, we want to hear their opinion, but those don't set policy, and they should never set policy. If they had a recommendation that we go back to 2 people to a cart, that should have been brought to the general manager as something they would like to see for her to bring to us at the meeting, not something that should go and be put into policy.
The general manager was informed of this decision, of what they're trying to do.
Okay?
Okay.
But nothing came to the board.
I don't know, I'm not the general manager.
But
Maybe you
you
should
are
ask
the
the general
board.
manager.
Did you see anything from the general manager to the board that we should discuss whether or not we should go back to 2 people to a cart? I didn't.
We
No,
were going
I
to,
did not either. I just,
That's the
it's
process
just
that we
amazing how
discussed
some
when we
things we
discussed
have
the
to get
committee.
involved with, and some things we don't want to get involved with. It's fine.
Well, I think when we're
I-
dealing with health issues in the operation,
My
that's
whole
something the
purpose-
board should discuss.
My whole purpose about bringing this up, if we need to modify our budget to get additional rental carts, because I do not believe that we should mandate 2 to a cart in all cases.
I think it would be perfectly appropriate, not knowing what the state has to say about it, but in my opinion, I think it would be perfectly appropriate to allow 2 people to a cart again if they want to. But I don't think we're at a point yet where we want to require it.
I thought Brian just said the state said it was okay.
He said the state
PGA did.
Oh, not
PGA,
not the health department.
not the health department.
Because I asked Tanya yesterday, the governor just extended this 2 more months. The freeze on stuff that's going on. And then I kept seeing this stuff, emails coming about our groups and what the group leaders are saying, and it came from the golf committee, and it just, we need a process where,
We have a process, I'm just not sure
well,
it
it's
was
not,
followed
the
here.
process isn't being followed.
You know, I don't need this.
The governor's office will not make a recommendation either way. We've contacted them.
So what do you guys want to do?
But the CDC says we should continue our social distancing.
First of all, there's no motion to address that. And I agree with Neil. Whatever comes from the golf committee is merely a suggestion or a recommendation. There's a couple people on the golf committee who preach that as the gospel when the meeting's over. We're going to do this, we're going to do that. And that's where this is coming from, is those 2 individuals. I don't think you're going to be able to make 2 riders to a cart mandatory without getting yourself into a whole bunch of trouble. I'm not riding a cart with anybody
I
because
don't
I'm
believe we've ever
severely
said it should be
compromised.
mandatory. You know, and,
But how do I prove that?
okay.
You gonna make everybody bring in a doctor's slip? I don't think so.
No, not at all. I mean,
So-
obviously, it wouldn't be mandatory, it would be recommended, is our stance on it. And if it's,
Yeah.
if they want to ride alone, we'll do that. But, you know, if we're going to do that with the public, You know, there's some clubs charging additional dollars to have a single rider cart to cover the cost of rentals or the cost of lost revenues because we do not have enough carts.
That's an option?
It's an option.
Yeah.
It's another option to explore getting rental carts. That we've done that at other facilities.
How close have we come to running out of carts since it started? Do you know?
My understanding is that if we did not go through with double rider carts for the public, we would not have had the revenues we had since June. Now, obviously, that's the same thing. It's recommended, and if they come through and want to ride alone, we make that happen.
And I think that's the way it's going to have to be.
Correct.
So I think what you need to find out is what the short-term rental availability is and what the cost is.
Will do.
Because in peak season in the past, we've been known to rent 20 extra carts or 30 extra carts. So if we need to do that sooner, and we need to do it longer, so be it. But we won't know that until season gets here.
Well, I know I think we can rent up to 50 carts in our lease agreement, but that is soon to be expired.
That's also included in the new RFP. We get that provision up to 50 additional carts, and they have to tell us how much per cart for that rental period.
Okay,
I'm
but
sorry.
But again, it's not part of the budget because we don't even know if we need to do it.
Correct.
Are we renting carts for members? Is that what we're talking about? Because I don't understand. Why would we rent carts for members? Don't they have carts?
Not all of them. Some of them pay a fee to not have a cart.
Well, those people are entitled to carts. That's correct.
Yeah.
There's about 20.
But the other guys who have carts, why are we renting carts for them?
Okay, the issue that was,
That they have, when they say two to a cart, in some cases, people, it'd be couples, especially on a couple weekend, they don't necessarily golf with their spouse, they golf with other people. At that point in time, that's another cart for a member.
Well, they should pay for it then. Don't you
We
think?
don't have to pay for it now. Never have we paid for it.
Okay, you guys do it. That's fine.
the point that was just being discussed that I don't want to hear being missed is the provision in the rental agreement that allows us to rent up to 50 extra carts, and the current agreement is about to expire, and we had decided to continue using on a month-to-month basis the existing fleet, putting off the new lease agreement as part of our capital expenditure savings, which means that even though it's in the new agreement that's in the capital budget to rent the additional carts, we're not going to have that rental in place. So we may lose the right to rent 50 carts unless we renew our rental agreement upon expire.
Right. Yeah, that's something we need to reach out to if we decide to stick with our current fleet and not renew a lease. Once again, that term will expire and those rental carts will expire as well. We'll have to see if they're willing to extend that for us for a period of time.
Make it part of the new agreement.
Well,
the
there
new
won't be
agreement
a
we're
new
putting
agreement.
on.
We'll be buying them out, so there
Right.
won't be an agreement. We'll
We're
have to
going to have a service agreement with them in all likelihood.
correct. It'd just be
So make the rental clause part of that service agreement.
so hopefully that RFP is coming due November 22nd.
Yeah.
And you guys should see it sometime in the middle of October. At that point, we'll have a good idea of where we're going with the new or sticking with our current, and then we can, pursue whichever avenue we need to.
Let's try to pursue that sooner than November, so that we can decide what we need to do sooner than that. So let's see if we can't get at least a verbal agreement from the company to continue to extend us up to 50 carts if we need it, while we're dealing with all of this.
Okay.
And if you can bring that report back to us at the next meeting, that would be helpful in keeping things moving forward, because I certainly appreciate that there's no reason we can't always allow one person to a cart as long as we have carts. I think it's perfectly appropriate in normal circumstances if a person wants to take a one-person cart that they pay for a two-person cart. but given our current CDC guidelines, I'm not sure we should make that extra charge right now. I think we can always relook at that, but I think that right now we're trying to accommodate golfers, keep everybody safe and comfortable on the golf course. I just think we need to be able to accommodate one-player carts if that's what the customer wants.
I have reached out to EasyGo, the local distributor, and Club Car, and neither one of them have a full-service agreement in their territory in Florida. It's just cost prohibitive. So not one country club has got a full-service agreement. They're only servicing the warranty parts, and then we pay for everything else. So we could have service calls, but our staff would still be responsible to take care of the carts. Now, we could try to find a local company that may want to do that, but I have the same thing. It's probably going to be what we prepaid for.
Okay, so you're saying that we couldn't negotiate a service agreement because they won't even offer one?
Correct.
And that would impact our ability to tack on an amendment that would allow us to rent up to 50 cars?
We do not have a service agreement now.
Okay. The question I would have, though, is whether or not the current lessor, or right? Yeah, we're the lessee, they're the lessor. The current lessor is anticipated to be the future lessor, and to keep our business, they might be willing to extend that 50-car rental agreement.
I would think so.
So that's my hope, is that we can get their concurrence to that.
We certainly should address it, though, once we know a little better what's going to happen in October, instead of making rules now.
I would agree.
Okay.
Another point, we discussed flagging or listing the items that are being postponed.
Correct. So I'd like for us to look at the current year capital, and we'll go page by page.
Can I ask a question on this? What did we decide and what were we telling people? I'm sorry, I didn't get that.
So seems like the consensus was that you'll continue to offer it as recommended 2 carts. If someone requires a request to ride alone, then you'll accommodate that request on a per request basis.
Okay, you're going to send that out? Yes, sir.
And that is my understanding. We were going to mention it during staff reports today about the 2 people per cart as a recommendation. Again, my understanding, it was not mandatory, but I know there's a few issues that we need to work through, especially like you said, maybe there might be new carts that we need and some other things. So we were going to mention it during staff reports today. So anyway.
It could impact the budget. That's
Absolutely.
the reason I brought it up
Absolutely, it could. Absolutely, I agree.
Okay.
So before we finalize, starting on page 15, we've highlighted, just to make sure we're all on the same page as far as what capital is being held until after the first quarter and what's going to be continue to be pursued right away. So I want to make sure all the board was aware and was in agreement with what we've highlighted to hold and what not to hold. So the first item, equipment replacement, obviously that can't be on hold. That's a continuing month-to-month lease. The golf carts right now we're currently pursuing, so we did not claim that as going to be on hold. That'll be a board decision whether to renew or not. The Aqua Tea project will probably be a summer project. We will begin developing the RFP and submitting that out for issuance, but it won't take place until the summer, so that's on hold. Golf course improvements. So the bulkhead we will not hold. We'll try and take care of that as soon as possible. We'll start working on getting quotes and vendors lined up. But the cart path will be on hold until the summer. And then the short game practice area is on hold, and the clubhouse updates and furniture. Are we all in agreement for the golf capital, what's on hold and what's not? Sounds good?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
The next one for the general fund is on page 29. Both of these items we have highlighted to hold. The first one being the workstation printer upgrades for the district office, and then all of the roads and drainage equipment for $130,000 we've already marked to hold off on all of that until at least January. So that includes the skid steer, the mulching head, and the tractor that's been included in this budget. And lastly, on page 36, we only have 2 items for which we've marked to hold. The first being the smoke test for $125,000. We'll kind of wait till January and come back to the board with that. More than likely, that'll be a summer project for our utilities crew. And then the other item is the high service pumps for the water plant, which is $75,000. We'll hold until January to get that done. Everything else, we are recommending to go ahead and move forward to get done the automatic interconnect valve, the generator program, the surveys carts, and the lift station repairs.
Why?
What do you mean, why? So lift station repairs.
Why are we holding?
Lift station repairs, those are that presentation that Israel did 3 or 4 meetings ago where he showed some of those lift stations are deteriorating in bad condition. We want to start getting a vendor in line and scheduled to start some of those repairs. So that's one of the reasons. The interconnect automatic valve. So yesterday we had a break on Myrtle Beach and Savona Drive, I believe.
It was a fire hydrant.
So our water pressure is supposed to maintain a 60 PSI pressure throughout the district. Yesterday, because of that break, it got down to 20 PSI. So Florida Hospital felt impacts, Crown Point, Florida Joint and Spine. What this would allow to do, as soon as that break happens and our water plant goes down to a certain level PSI, that automatic interconnect valve would open and boost that 40% drop back into the system, and no one would have felt an effect.
Okay.
So what happened yesterday is we had to go to the water plant, find out what the pressure was, figure out it was low, and then have to go and manually open that, which took some time, and there could have been a potential that it went down to 0 or more effects happened. So we're recommending to try and do that as quick as possible.
What about the generator replacement?
The generator replacement, we have 2 generators earmarked that we want to replace. The first one is the district office, which I believe currently right now is inoperable. Right. Had a damage during one of the lightning strikes probably about 3 months ago. The repair was somewhere around $5 to $7 grand. We felt it wasn't worth spending the money now, knowing that we only had 2 months until the new budget. So that's kind of a, if a hurricane or a storm comes through, the district office will be without power. The other one is the Edgewater lift station, which is also an older unit. And then the survey cart, we typically do about 100 locates throughout the district. So that includes new construction. If you're doing a fence installation, you're required to call 811, which is a locate service. We have to go out there as well as Comcast, CenturyLink, TECO, anyone that may have lines in that easement. We have to go out there and survey and mark that. This survey cart will let us know where our lines are, if there's any other lines, so we can mark that so vendors will not end up penetrating our lines and breaking them. So,
How do we do that now?
we currently have one cart. I believe it's 7+ years old.
Yeah, it's a little older than that.
It's operational. It does work. It's just not effective. We've hit a couple CenturyLink lines, which have cost us either insurance claims or monies to repair. And it's just the technology 7 years ago compared to now is just a lot different. So
are we responsible to locate everybody's lines within the easement?
just our own. But if we don't know where our line is and we're probing and we end up hitting someone else's line because we're trying to find our water line, that's what's causing that to happen. With this new survey cart, it will define better what our water line is compared to a cable line versus a phone line, and that won't happen as often.
Okay, and this is a trade-in sort of an animal?
Correct. And especially with 50 new constructions this year, it's gone up dramatically for our utilities crew to go out there and locate every time there's a new construction. And that's in addition to, once again, if you're putting in a shed or a fence, every time that happens, it's another locate to make sure they're not hitting or protruding one of our lines.
So with the trade-in, what's the net cost?
With the trade-in, so we are recommending not to trade in. We'll keep the old cart as a backup. So if there is an overwhelming call, let's say one of our developers has 5 new homes going in and we have calls or demand there, we can send 2 guys out and just take care of them. So the recommendation is to keep the old cart for right now as well.
That doesn't answer my question.
I'm not sure what the trade-in value is. We weren't pursuing
I'd like to know that.
Okay.
If you're keeping the old cart and you're going to use it and it's usable, why buy the new one now?
Once again, the demand has gone up. We've had issues with the old cart. There is issues there when we're hitting other lines.
Well, either
this
works
cart
or
won't have that. So this will be the primary cart. In the cases of demand and needed, that second cart is available for our crews to go out there and get it done.
The new one's much more advanced. We have gone out and do locates, right? And we were right on top of wires and it didn't pick it up.
We also do it for like the drainage projects that we did on Sunrise.
Driveways.
We have to go down there and mark everything off, so there is a lot of work.
We're only
involved.
talking till January. I don't think it's a life and death issue, is it?
No. Well, by the time we get quotes and get this out, if anything, we'll probably end up buying it in November, December.
Okay. I mean, we just seem to always want to buy new toys.
It's not a
And
toy.
sometimes we can't justify it.
Right, it's not a toy.
Fine, but sometimes.
Okay.
But we're not
Okay.
replacing one.
I
We're just going to
understand
put it
that.
aside and use it when we have to. So it's not, it's usable.
Well,
It may be usable, but based on what I'm hearing about the old technology, it probably has very little trade-in value, and it does
Exactly,
have
Neil.
some value as a backup.
God, you guys.
a lot of these companies, you know, I mean, it's 8 years old, I think, it's not 7, right? And you know what? I mean, nobody really wants it. It's like an old car you trade in. You know, you think it's worth a lot of money, and it's not. You know, if we have it, if something does happen with the new one, you never know.
Mike, I just want to know the value of the trade, that's all I'm asking.
All right, Joe. Yeah, we'll get that for next meeting.
So how much are we holding?
In total, we have $137,000 in the general fund. Utility is $125 and $75, $200,000, so that's $337,000, and then golf. So almost around $500,000.
Well, give me the number. What's the number? 500?
Yeah. It's because we have 120 for the Aqua Tea project,
That's fine. I'm just asking for the total. 500?
500,000.
Okay.
You have anything else, Omar?
That's all for me.
Given the built-in flexibility, I would make a motion to approve.
There was already a motion to approve the resolution, so
Then I go make one.
we'll note it as a concurrence.
Any other board discussion? Any public discussion?
Good morning, Mark Camp, resident. I just have a quick question, and I don't have all of the detail in front of me, so I apologize for not being prepared for this particular question. I noticed that the budget is roughly 11.4, which is considerably less than what I remember in the years, which is good. But you have a number of items on hold, and I'm trying to understand. Those items on hold, you addressed January as a lot of the dates, and I'm not quite sure. What does that mean? You have that $500,000 actually with a place marker, and so it's not going to increase the 11.4.
Correct, no.
Okay. That's the only clarification I need. I thank you.
Any other public comment? Call the question?
Supervisor Brooks?
Yes.
Supervisor Branson?
Yes.
Supervisor Herrick?
Yes.
Supervisor Gilpin?
Yes.
President Hoteling?
Yes. The next item is resolution number 2020-91127, a resolution of the Sun and Lake Sebring Improvement District approving the form and authorizing the execution and delivery of a First Amendment to the First Supplemental Trust Indenture providing an effective date, which is a mouthful that we're going to let our attorney explain to us.
We need a motion.
Thank you.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, so this involves the,
Here.
You're not?
Yeah.
Okay, so this involves the Phase 5 bond. The issue is there's been lots of properties that have not been paying this bond over quite some time, and we've finally been contacted by the bondholder to try and figure out a way to how to bring some of these properties into compliance. So the first step of that process is they're wanting to reduce the interest rate to 0. Omer and I had a discussion with Richard Johnson, who's the bondholder representative that we've been discussing this, and he's been coming up with this plan. And the issue currently is that the district gets paid a 1% servicing fee or collection fee. But that's always been based off that's always been a part of the collected interest. And so with reducing the interest to zero, that would be reducing our fee to zero. So we're proposing that we talked to him yesterday about leaving that in, and the problem was it was going to create a hassle with getting because this is all included with the assessment billing. This is, when we send our billing out in, middle of October, this bond payment is part of that bill. So this is going to make it difficult, making these changes is going to make it difficult to get the billing out on time and be able to double check and everything was correct. And so the discussion we had yesterday, he agreed that we could send the billing out as normal this year because we've got 12,000 plus properties that get sent an assessment bill. But this affects less than 1,200. I think it's a little over 1,100 properties that this bond affects. So, but the plan is now is to send out the bills as normal, and then contact the individual affected property owners about a potential discount and notifying them of the change to the 0% interest, with the hopes that they will see, as opposed to just seeing their bill saying, oh my gosh, there's still $30,000, $40,000 out on this property, I'm just going to chuck it in the trash. They'll get that personalized letter that specifically says, here's what we're trying to do to bring you into compliance, here's what sort of a discount you're going to get, and then hopefully they would be more likely to make their payment. So the only there's a minor change to the resolution, basically just involving the effective date. This will not, it currently states it will go into effect immediately. Based on yesterday's conversation, the change would be to go into effect after billing goes out in October of this year.
Okay, a point of clarification, if they're not paying the bond, my assumption would be they're not paying their assessments either.
Not true.
Not true.
Not true.
So
Lots of people still pay their assessments but do not pay the bond.
Okay.
And my conversation with Tanya yesterday and Omar, that there's been like 2,000 already turned over
It's deeded to the county. Do you have that number?
from the county.
Yes.
I mean, so it's,
So in 2011, there was roughly 2,600 properties that were affected by this Phase 5 bond. Currently, there's only 1,112.
yeah.
So they've lost about 1,400 properties to either escheatment or payoffs. I'd say 90% of that is escheatment, which is the inventory that the county has and is now selling for sale. Of the current 1,100, 60 are owned by the district, which means the property owner deeded it back to us and its bonds are still there. So someone may call us and say, I'm interested in this property, and then I'll tell them there's $60,000 owing on this, and then they never call me back. The other 60 are owned by Lands Available, which is that escheatment process. So a good portion of these are still owned by the private owners, which is a good sign for Phase 5, as they can still try and attack that 1,000-plus group of property owners to try and get some sort of settlement and get them paying again, and also getting the district and getting them back on our tax roll. So we're hopeful that this will be a good strategy in getting some more assessment dollars coming in, getting these back on the roll. It's just going to take some time working with Phase 5 and coming up with some sort of marketing strategy to contact these property owners with something that's reasonable and lucrative enough for them to want to come back and bring not only us current, the bonds current, but also the county, which may have outstanding county taxes. So,
Are the bond obligations all the same?
they're similar. There are some different obligations just depending on what services were provided to that property. So the majority of them have road, water, and sewer provided to them, which was a $10,000 bond issuance. Some have less because maybe they just got a road and drainage, but the majority are in the $10,000 range bond issuance.
And how many of these are vacant lots as opposed to developed?
I'd say 98% are vacant.
And how many are, the fact that they haven't been is treated back to the county tells me that many of them maybe are paying their taxes and assessments, but not their bond for some reason.
So that's another, so there's a $5,000 threshold that they have to meet in order for the county to move forward with the escheatment. So that's one factor. Another factor is that it only begins after 3 years of tax deeds not being bought. So if some investors out there buying tax deeds, it's prolonging that process, which we don't know unless we do individual requests. Based on our research, when we decided to try and pursue the uniform method of collection, we found that there wasn't that many paying the county their taxes. If not, it would have been lucrative for us to move that down that path. So they're not paying the county. Something's holding the county up from moving forward on the escheatment property, either the value or tax deeds being bought.
So the bonds that are larger, the 50,000, 60,000, those are with accrued interest?
That's because of accrued interest and penalties, correct?
Is that negotiable?
That is. So, for example, we looked at a property yesterday. We were on the phone with the bondholder to kind of explain the situation. So we pulled up one residential home that had a bond. The current payoff was $40,000 on that one property. The principal amount only was about $8,000. So that would be a scenario where they would offer them somewhere in that range, including district assessments, to bring them current versus the $40,000 that's currently outstanding.
So could we do that with vacant lots in order to?
That's the intent. Based on their first proposal, they only wanted to change the 2020 tax year, which I felt wasn't going to make a big impact to a tax bill, going from $40,000 to $40,500. My recommendation for them was to go ahead and retroactive and bring that balance down from $40,000 to $10,000, and that would cause more of a spark or an interest in those property owners to hopefully contact us and see if they would be willing to come to some sort of settlement agreement.
And there may be cases where you could pay them even more.
Correct.
And we'd still break even.
Correct.
And be at market value.
So that's kind of the other part of this, is figuring out who's going to be responsible for fielding these phone calls, coming up with settlement amounts, helping the bondholder figure out what's owed and what's not owed on each property, and then making those adjustments as we go. So hopefully we get a ton of phone calls. We won't know until we issue out that marketing campaign.
Is there a time restriction on people having to make decisions, or is it open to whatever?
So the bondholder also has the ability to foreclose against the property. So I'm assuming they're going to try and make a couple attempts to get a hold of these guys, either have them deed the property back or make a settlement. If not, then they're going to pursue bulk foreclosure actions against property owners to try and get these properties back in their name so they can resell them at a discounted value when they get the ownership.
Okay, now I'm more confused because.
Yeah, it's a lot of pieces to this.
Well, yeah, but my understanding was that we were going to be taking the lead on trying to get these negotiated, and now I'm hearing they're going to be contacting.
So we haven't come to a compromise. In the past, our only obligation was to collect and remit for that 1% in interest. They're recommending we go down to 0%. We've kind of gone back and counteroffered to keep our 1%. So we're going to reduce it from 11% now down to 1%. With them requesting that we kind of take on more responsibility in marketing and selling and negotiating, we're trying to find out a reasonable fee structure for us to take on that burden. We only have a limited amount of staff. They're not all knowledgeable in property sales or values. We're trying to, get them to take on that burden. So we're still in that negotiation phase where we haven't. That'll be another indenture resolution that we come back with, either giving us another fee collection in addition to do that additional service, or having them take that responsibility.
And that's why I'm not recommending that we execute the memorandum of understanding that's also attached, because it basically obligates us to take on that additional responsibility without guaranteeing us any actual funds for this additional work. So that's what we're in negotiations with right now, is to figure out what it is exactly that they're expecting us to do and what our compensation is going to be for those services.
So, okay, so clarify for me then what this amendment does.
Basically what this amendment is doing is we are approving the ability to reduce it to 0% interest, that going into effect, that's the one change. Paragraph 5, the effective date states this resolution shall become effective upon its adoption. That's going to be changed to read, this resolution shall become effective after October 2020 billing. So we're going to send out this year's billing as normal, and then at a subsequent time, contact the individual property owners of the 1,100-plus properties that are affected by the bond to let them know, hey, your interest has been reduced to 0%, and here's some other potential negotiation things in order to reduce this overall bill to get them into compliance.
I thought you were didn't you just say you were thinking about keeping it at 1%, though?
Well, it's the interest rate on the bond will be reduced to 0. Our 1% is our service fee.
Okay. And
And that may change as well, depending on how negotiations go after this, with regarding the memorandum of understanding, because as my memo states, we don't have anything in writing as to our 1% collection fee. That was just something that's apparently happened. That was before I was here, before Tanya was here, before Omar was here. It was just it's the way it's always been done over the course of the bond, but there's nothing actually in writing that says that we're entitled to a 1% collection fee.
And
Why does this have to be done prior to working everything else out?
Because that's what the bondholder's requesting. And there was a rush to try to get it done because they wanted us to send out the bills to reflect the 0% interest, but it's just not feasible to get that done. So based on the conversation we had yesterday, the bondholder basically agreed, go ahead and send them out like you normally do, but they just want to know that the board is on board with this proposal of how to start trying to bring these into compliance.
Could we, in lieu of approving an amendment for a process that isn't yet defined, provide a concurrence that we're in favor of finding a solution, and that, if they want to reduce their rate to 0%, that they can, but we'll have to work out the terms of any amendment before the board will approve an amendment?
Well, basically, that's what all this amendment is going to do. Is this amendment is going to say it's okay to send it down to 0%. What we're saying is we're okay. If the board approves this, they're saying, yes, we're okay with that. What we're not saying is that we're going to agree to all these additional potential services. That's why we're not executing the memorandum of understanding. That's why they kind of put it into two parts, is they want to know the board is on board with moving to the 0% interest rate. And technically, it doesn't require your approval. I mean, they're the bondholders. They can make it whatever they want it. They can make whatever they want it to be because they're the one they hold the 100% interest in the bonds. So they're just wanting to make sure that the board is understanding the process that they're going through to make these more marketable. And so this is basically step one of a multi-step process.
Is the service fee that we've been taking of 1% based on 1% of the interest, 1% of the payment, and does that come out of the interest because we send them all of the principal? Or because if we reduce it to 0% and we're still required to send them all of the principal collected, we're cutting ourselves out.
Correct. So it's 1% of the interest. So we'd have to remove them down to 0, but then calculate a 1% interest calculation for all those delinquent units to make sure we're still getting fees.
But if we approve this amendment that says it's 0%,
Right.
we're SOL.
Right.
We have zero contractual ability to charge the 1% right now.
But we have precedent.
Correct, but that may be something that we have to go to court to solidify.
Well,
We're trying to keep things, they're happy for us to keep getting our 1%. So the issue that I've been understanding from Omar is that changing that calculation process in such a short time span between now and when the bills go out by middle of October would be incredibly difficult. And so it's a better process to just go ahead and say, yes, we're on board with reducing this to 0%, and we're going to come back and renegotiate, because they may say, we want you guys to do X, Y, and Z, and we say, well, we're not willing to do X, Y, and Z from 1%. We're going to start negotiating what it is we're actually going to do, but we are contractually obligated to collect and remit the funds for nothing. That's what our contract says.
So we're obligated to...
We have to collect and remit no matter what, and we are, under the terms of the contract, we cannot collect the fee for that.
Wait a minute. We have to bill and we have to send them what we collect.
Correct.
We don't have to collect because sometimes we can't.
Correct, yeah, correct. We send out the bills, and whatever money gets returned to us, it's our job to remit that. But per the terms of the contract, there is no fee attached to that. That is part of our job. And so the 1% fee that we have been collecting over the course of, I don't know, however many years it's been, 14, 15 years, that's not in writing anywhere that we've been able to find.
That's extremely bizarre.
I know.
Any board discussion?
So is it your recommendation that we don't do this?
No, it's my recommendation that we approve only what's listed there in the resolution, the First Amendment to the First Supplemental Trust Indenture, with the one change that would become effective after this October 2020 billing date. And then the rest of it will continue to negotiate and bring back the renegotiated memorandum of understanding that's going to basically set forth what it is that whatever our new responsibilities may be and what our new fee will be related to those responsibilities, if that's what gets negotiated.
So, are we passing a resolution that doesn't change anything?
No, it's changing the interest rate on the bond to 0%.
Is it changing it to 0%, or is it changing it to allow them to lower it as low as they would like up to 0%?
No, it's 0%. That's
It's setting the new rate at 0%.
So we're going from 1 to 0.
No. It's going from 11 to 1.
11 to 0.
Yeah. Well, technically to 1, but the 1% is ours.
Correct.
Their current interest rate is 10%, and we're reducing that 10% to 0, and we're maintaining our 1% that we've been collecting. That they've basically said that they don't have a problem with that, even though it's not in writing.
But that's not what the amendment says.
No, the amendment says it's reducing the bond rate to 0.
But it's theirs, right? It's their
Correct.
bond.
It's their bond.
So,
This is basically showing that the board is the board of supervisors and is in agreement with their current plan, as they want to make sure that you guys aren't going to have a problem with them doing this.
and it's just out of curiosity, if we didn't agree with them, what would happen? They'd do it anyway, right?
Yes, they could.
So, okay.
I mean, I've got to say that I'm not comfortable amending an agreement that's still in negotiation. I would like to get everything negotiated and then amendment. I think the general concept is certainly agreeable to me. I'd like to find anything we can do to resolve outstanding debt on these properties to make them more profitable for everybody. But if we're still in the process of negotiating our relationship with the bondholder, I'd like to get all that negotiation into an amendment rather than piecemealing amendments. That would be my take. Any other board discussion, or I'll open it to public comment? Any public comment? Okay. Seeing no public comment, no further board discussion, Chrissy, call the question.
Supervisor Branson?
No.
Supervisor Herrick?
No.
Supervisor Gilpin?
Yes.
Supervisor Brooks?
No.
President Hoteling?
No.
Yes. 4-1. I joined your club.
I was in the big one.
Okay, the next item.
I guess really we could go back to them saying is.
We'll bring it back.
It'll come back with it'll come back again with the renegotiated, what services the districts are going to be provided and what our
Yeah,
compensation
I
will
think
be.
you can be clear with them that, the board is definitely supportive of getting this resolved. That we just want to get everything resolved before we amend the agreement.
And my understanding is the bondholder is fairly close on the marketing plan and getting some of these details worked out, so it won't be too long.
Good. Okay. Next item is Resolution 2020-911-28, a resolution of the Sun and Lake of Sebring Improvement District to approve an interlocal agreement between Highlands County for the removal of emergency storm debris. And I've had some discussions with staff on what we're doing here, and I would love to have them update the entire board for clarification.
I need a motion.
Oh, I'm sorry. Motion. There's a motion.
Second?
Okay, thank you. Okay.
Good morning, Supervisors. Highlands County has created a draft interlocal agreement for emergency storm debris removal. This will apply to Spring Lake and to all the municipalities here in Highlands County. And it's just a formality. So during Hurricane Irma, these interlocal agreements were not in place. This allows the county to pick up all debris that is taken to our district and pushed to our district roads at no cost to the district. And my understanding, the other municipalities will be approving that here in the next week and a half at their board meetings. So once it is approved by our district, it will be on the Highlands County agenda to approve the interlocal agreements with all the governments here in Highlands County. I don't have the dates in front of me for the Highlands County meetings.
Okay, so basically, we're approving the general format of what has been done pending the county's approval of the agreement so that we can finalize the agreement. Is that correct? Or are we finalizing our agreement now?
We're going to finalize our agreement now. This is the same process as we did during the Recreation and Parks Advisory Committee. We received funding for shuffleboard. So what we did is we approved the interlocal agreement first, and then it went to the county for final. And then both agencies will sign the interlocal, and we'll keep it on file. So
Did we have one of these prior to Irma?
we did not. No.
So this is something new, and why do we need it now?
FEMA is requiring agreements, and I think this will make sure that the formality is in place in case we do have a hurricane here in the next couple of weeks or something do happen. And FEMA is requiring it with the municipalities. I do know that for a fact, but as far as the special districts, they want to be sure that all the governments within Highlands County have this in place prior to an emergency.
The concept is so FEMA can do all of its negotiations with the county instead of having to do it with every local government.
Yes, and it would be a nightmare to have different debris removal companies come in individually for the different governments. It's for the county to take care of all the debris removal that's pushed aside to the roads makes sense for the entire county, for the county to administer that.
Correct me if I'm wrong. According to the article in the paper the other day, the county doesn't even know what they're doing for sure yet. And there's a 25% charge that was mentioned in the article that was over and above at the end that we would have to incur.
There's no charge.
Of the paper.
Yeah, there's no charge. This is a zero cost to the district.
It was in the front page of the paper.
I know. There's a zero cost to the district.
So the paper's wrong.
There's no charge for us to administer this interlocal agreement.
The county only covers so much, and then what's left over would be incurred by the special districts, is what the article said. Just telling you what it said.
I know, but not for this. I mean, I've had conversations with Gator Howerton again this morning. If there's any other specifics, but that I can't answer today, I'll be glad to get back to you. But there's no cost, absolutely zero cost to the district.
Well, I'd like for somebody to check out that article before we vote on it. I mean, it says there's a cost.
Well, the concern is what this contract says. We're approving the form of this contract. If the form of the contract substantially changes, then they would have to bring it back to the board for approval.
Correct.
So we're approving the form of this contract that's attached. That does not have a cost.
This agreement that doesn't include a cost for the district
Correct.
is what we're approving for the county to approve. And once they've approved it and we've approved it, then we'll get together and sign it. If they change the terms so that we would have to pay then what we approve today would have to come back to us because we're not approving any cost. You can't always rely on newspapers. You can rely most of the time on agreements.
Our paper's a lot like golf committee.
Here we go.
Okay.
I have a question. I realize that this is a draft. This really is going to be longer than an 8 or 10 month agreement. I mean, this says it expires next April.
Yes. Are you asking, what was your question? I'm sorry.
Well, I said I realize this is a draft,
Yes.
but the expiration date in the draft is next April. Surely it's a longer agreement than that.
I don't have the answer on why it's April 30th, but as far as I know now, it's only until April 30th. I don't know if that's the county or FEMA. I can follow up on that.
My understanding of the intent is that it is for the hurricane season.
That is my understanding too.
If it is really only for 6 or 7 months, then I would hope there's some kind of automatic renewal, or according to this, we have to send them a letter and they have to agree, and I don't know, it looks like they're trying to complicate it, but it may just be because it's a draft and they had to put a date in there, I don't know.
I don't have the answer. I'm sorry. I don't know why it's April 30th. I do know that is the date, but I'd have to follow up with the county on, why it would be April 30th.
Yeah, I'd like to know.
Okay.
And my question would be, do you want to know that before we vote on it, or are you suggesting we table this until we get clarification? I think that was perhaps in the suggestion of our other...
Well, I guess I don't have a problem with voting on it, and if that's what it is, that's fine. I just find it curious.
Yeah, my understanding and belief is it's intended to be for the hurricane season to accommodate FEMA, and that they would be looking to do something similar every year, but want to relook at it every year.
And if that's the case, that's fine.
That is my understanding. Why they use that particular date, I'd have to make a call.
Yeah, I think it'd be a good thing to clarify, but I
do feel comfortable as far as the date goes, and then any other future agreements would be brought back to the board, for 2021.
Okay. Any further board discussion? Any public comment?
I guess part of it, if there's a question about the date, and there's a question about this 25% that's out there in the newspaper, if we table it for 2 weeks, is that significant as far as the county's concerned?
We can do whatever the board desires on that. I don't have a clear understanding of what day they were wanting to bring this back to the Board of County Commissioners. I know they wanted to do it this month in case, that there is a hurricane. And that's why I brought it to you now. I didn't want to wait until the 28th. And it's again, it was a rough draft that was given to me this way, but I do know that they want to make sure that this is in place in case there is a hurricane.
I don't have a problem with signing it as it is, because it does cover us for the short term.
Correct.
And that's very important based on what the paper said. I would be in favor of the agreement. I'd just like to have clarification as to what the next steps will be and when.
I can find out all that information today and send a supplemental email to the board with that information.
So are we going to vote today, or what are we doing?
So far, I haven't heard a motion to table.
I would make a motion to approve.
It's already been moved and seconded. Okay. We're just finishing up board comment. Any public comment?
Yes, I am. Mark Camp, resident. I just, I'm watching this board struggle a little bit, and I'm watching management here struggle a little bit with the definition of what this is really about and with some of the dates. With so much information right now not being known about this resolution, I think it's remiss to vote on something and then after the fact, if you go yes with it, and then after the fact find out that if you might have a 25% hit. I don't know the answer to that. You all had the opportunity to sit down with management and discuss this, but there's too much indecision here right now as to which way to go. It's up to you. You're the board. You can vote. The 25% hit is in the article, and as Neil indicated, and I totally agree, you can't believe everything you read in the newspaper, and it is a short-term agreement. But if you get hit for 25%, and after the fact you say, oh, wow, we just got hit for 25%, and you get surprised with it. How do you handle that? You know, it's been brought up. It's been discussed. Why can't you have a little bit, maybe a breather for a week or so? I don't know. Your next meeting's in, what, 2 weeks, I believe? Maybe. It's just a thought. You guys, obviously, you're going to vote on it, so just a thought. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, and by the way, I want to actually congratulate the board. I don't know what they did, but for me, they're all speaking into the mics. I can hear them plainly, and back there we can hear it. So the sound systems, if you change it, I don't know, but it sounds great.
Thank you.
To confirm, this is a no-cost agreement. That confirmation was from County Administrator Randy Vosberg and from Gator Howerton with engineering.
And I personally don't have any confusion. I'm fine with the short-term agreement, and I don't see anything in here that's going to cost us anything. And again, if they came back with a cost, that would have to be a different agreement. That's not what we're approving today if we approve this. So if there's no further discussion, call the question.
Supervisor Herrick?
Yes.
Supervisor Gilpin?
Yes.
Supervisor Brooks?
No.
Supervisor Branson?
Yes.
President Hotelli?
Yes. Okay. Item D under the action agenda is discussion of the general manager job description and goals. We had this in the last meeting and asked her to make some changes. She's made changes. Any discussion or further question from the board? I think we're making good progress. I think this gives us something legitimate to provide a review on to make sure that she's doing the job we want her to do. You know, I'm confident she will continue to do everything that's needed to keep moving Sun and Lake forward, but this kind of puts it in writing more clearly for me.
And this is a work in progress. I mean, I realize there are a few items that are listed here that I am looking for answers for first before we can really move into measurable objectives. And once we have some of these answers, I think we'll be moving forward. So again, I would like to bring this back. Maybe in about 3 months, we should have some, in 2 to 3 months on a meeting, we could, you know, I could let the board have an update on some of these items, especially from grant funding side. So.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be opposed to the board looking at her progress on a quarterly basis, so there's no surprises as to what's being done and what our expectations are.
I think I'd like to go through this.
Okay.
I have some questions.
Sure.
On the general manager goals and objectives, that first objective, you're going to update the strategic action plan and present to the Board of Supervisors. I assume, I'd like to see you add there, present to the Board of Supervisors for their approval.
I'm sorry, you'd like to see when?
I'd like to see it say you're going to present it to the Board of Supervisors for their approval, and obviously we have to change the date. Because when's September 15th?
I can add that.
These are, to me, these should be goals for next year, not this year.
Agreed.
So I mean, you can make it, for all I care, December 1. I don't care what date you choose, but I think you should choose a date in the fiscal year that we're talking about and present it to the board for approval.
Well,
The same thing on the second objective. You say you're going to come up with an evaluation process and compare it to other local governments, et cetera, which is a good one. But again, I want you to present it to the board for their approval before you implement it. So, and I want it, and I think September 30th may not be a fair date either, because again, the year starts in my mind with October 1.
Correct. That's why I was saying the September 30th date is just the evaluation part. It will not be when I bring it back to the board. So going back to the strategic action plan, yes, I will be bringing that to the board, but it will not be this month. It'll be here in the next.
But we're talking about your next year's performance.
Correct.
So I think
That's
you have to
correct.
get specific to say, this is
Okay.
when I'm going to do it, I'm going to give it to the board, blah, 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 blah.
Understood.
Okay, the goal, that third goal, source of PGA or other major outside golf event, I don't know why you're so hung up on a PGA event. The chances of you getting a PGA event, it's a nice goal, but to measure it would be foolish because it's not going to happen. If you wanted to reword that to say, increase the number of outside events that we host here at Center Lake, that to me is a realistic goal.
Tanya and I had conversations concerning this also, and and we came to, she cannot secure the event. That is basically through the work of the golf group.
Agreed.
But what she can control is working with, if we could land something like this, I think we have to have the Chamber of Commerce involved with it. The county needs to be involved with it, because that is a big financial hit or advantage for people here in the county. The hotel owners, the diners, et cetera, et cetera. And I think she could work with the Commerce on obtaining, for lack of it, maybe some form of financial assistance on us putting this together, because we can't put it together and lose money on it, just to say that we had this event.
Sponsorships.
But I think if she works through the county, that's her goal, or that's her.
But somebody would have to show interest before I think she should.
Well, from my understanding, the LPGA has come to us. That's what Mike Lemire is.
Okay, if you got, I mean, you can leave it the way it is.
I don't think it should be, because she can't secure a PGA event. And I'm going to evaluate, each of these objectives has to be measurable. And in order to be successful on that particular objective, if she doesn't secure an event, a major outside event, then she failed on that objective. Now, she could work with the county and the Chamber of Commerce and obtain an agreement with them that they will help assist in the financial aspects of obtaining some kind of a major event like this, and that's measurable. That's something she can control. She can't control whether or not we actually get one.
Okay, I'm good with that. We just got to change it to the word correctly.
Yes.
I'm planning on updating that, and that is true. There's going to be, if we bring in an LPGA event, it's going to take a community. It's going to, we know we will need sponsorships, and the event itself is going to need sponsorships. So Mike Lemire and I have talked through that process, and we feel we need to work together on this to make it happen. If that's the desire of the board and the community, we want to do that for them.
Okay, next goal, the next objective, what is, I guess I don't remember seeing this, I'm sure it's my fault. Utility master planning? I don't think I've ever seen that. Have I?
No, sir. I've just received a proposal on a master plan, so.
So you're going to come up with a utility master plan? No.
I will not be preparing a utility master plan, no. What I'm saying is I've received a proposal from our engineers, Craig A. Smith, to prepare a master plan in the event that if we needed to secure an SRF loan, which is a state revolving fund loan for future water lines and future improvements. All I have in front of me is a proposal. So once I have that, I'm just looking at it, is all I'm trying to say. And I think
But if
as
it's
a,
an objective, then you should say, I've got this plan given to me by Craig Smith, or whomever, and I'm going to present it to the board for your approval, and I'm going to have it to you by such and such a date. If you deem that as one of your objectives. You don't have to, I mean, just because I say it doesn't mean it has to be an objective. But that's how I would reword that. I mean, to Craig's point, an objective has to be measurable.
correct.
So, that's why you put dates in and reviews, et cetera, et cetera.
But, and again, I know that a community master plan, we've talked about master plans, I mean, what is it going to cost us? What if it's not feasible for us to do it right now? Those are some things.
But then you come to the board and tell us that.
Exactly. So as soon as I have that information, I will, yes.
The next, the last objective on the page, again, I think it's a good one, but I think that there has to be some dates or something. You're going to present this by blah, 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 with your recommendation, you and your staff's recommendation for their consideration to go forward. It's just, you got to add things and put a date so that we can say, okay, December 1, we're expecting to see a recreational plan from the district. And that's not to say that you can change, if you need more time, you can come to us and say, I can't do it by December 1, I need 2 more weeks or something because we fell a little bit behind or whatever. But again, it's got to be measurable.
Right, that'll be in my
And
follow-up.
it's also got
Yes.
to be the funding, because part of this is that she goes out and finds out whether there's any
Correct.
grant money available to us.
Right.
That's something that's controlled by her, could do, and that would be very good.
Right. I agree.
If that can be obtained, because without that, I don't see us being able to do anything to advance our recreation here. We don't have that money. Sorry.
And then the objectives on the top of the next page, obviously, your dates are there, but I'm giving you the flexibility. If you want to change the dates, the year goes a long time. It goes all the way through next October to September. So there's nothing to say that one of your objectives can't fall into next spring if there's too much on the plate to begin with. You have to prioritize how you see your objectives and then go
Correct.
accordingly. There's a couple that I do want added that were not mentioned at all.
Before we leave that particular one, I'd like to add on, I think it's important, this is, I believe, one of the most important objectives that you have. And if you need additional assistance in getting a plan put together, such as a consultant or something like that, I'd like you to come to us and say, this is what I need, and this is why I need it, and this is what we'll obtain through that.
Understood.
Because I believe that is the number, in my opinion, that's very close to the number one objective, if not the number one. That's my opinion.
There's 2 more I'd like you to consider, or the board to consider, somebody. I want you to be responsible for all communications sent out to all residents in the district. That's 1. I want you to be responsible for all contents of budgets presented to the board for approval. That's 2. I think you do it to a certain extent, but I'm not sure you do it to the extent that personally I would like to see it done. I want you to know that if Mike Hurley wants to spend $200,000 on equipment, that you know about it and you've agreed to it, and you're presenting the budget to the board for their approval. It'll be a little bit more work, I think, than we've done in the past, but I think it's critically important that you, in my mind, they should not be presenting the budget. It should be you. It's your budget, including Casper or whomever that we have. It's all yours. You're the district manager. So I don't know how you guys feel about those 2, but I think they're kind of important. If you want to add them, fine. If you don't,
Well, I agree they're important. I think they're kind of in the description myself, but if you want to be more specific, I don't have a problem making them more specific as far as her responsibilities go. Those clearly are her key responsibilities, and to the extent that we're getting the budgets, I'm of the belief that everything we're seeing in the budget, she's reviewed and is recommending. I don't think she's relying on staff without her questioning why we need this stuff maybe before it comes to us. I could be wrong. I certainly think she's doing that part of the job.
I don't mind if you add them.
I mean, the primary objective of the position is responsible for policy development and compliance, fiscal management, strategic planning, community relations, and operation of all district functions, programs, and activities. That's there. And if you want to be specific as to those things, I have no problem adding them.
I could add it to the job description. I could add communication, responsible for communication to residents as part of the job description as a recommendation.
I mean, I said what I mean,
Yeah.
you know, we spend $11 million a year. I think that's may not be a big number to some of us. Some of us, it's a big number. I think somebody ought to be held accountable. Unfortunately, in your position, that'd be you.
It's me.
And I just wanted to make sure, I mean, I want to review you on how you do statistically, as well as objectively with some other things. That's where I'm coming from.
Okay, understood.
I just want to clarify, if she's responsible for all communications, does that mean you want her reviewing any newsletters and menu updates that are sent out from the club?
Yeah.
So Mike doesn't send out anything that she hasn't reviewed?
Well, if she wants to trust her employees to send it out, that's fine. She's responsible for whatever comes out. That's her decision on how she wants to handle it. I'm not telling her to review every document. That would be her decision. But if something comes out from the district...
We hold her accountable.
Right.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I wanted to clarify that, because I think some of that needs to come from the places where it's coming from. But I agree. I mean, you need to be sure that the communications are
correct,
not incorrect, like apparently something that went out mandating 2 people to a car. I'm not sure that came out from anything you could control.
Correct.
Well, I agree, but it just seems to be a lot of stuff that you either don't know about or, you know, and I think it's important, especially through the golf operation. I haven't got enough fingers. If I multiply this 10 times, the stuff that comes out, and I can't believe you don't know about it, but decision should be you to us, and it's not working the way it is.
So it may be just a matter of clarifying that nobody sends out any policy decisions that you haven't looked at.
Correct. I think the communications from the club are primarily membership-related, menu-related, event-related. But, again, I haven't seen the communication on the 2-person card. I am aware of it, but I haven't seen it.
Yeah, I learned about it from
I know you
email
haven't
I
either.
received.
So,
I haven't seen it either. The only thing I think that was sent out was from group leaders, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
nothing...
that and Mike mentioned it in his,
oh, see, I don't
No,
get
there
that.
was a club,
yeah.
He's
the
saying
club
it's a
thing.
club
There
report,
was a
so
club
I'll look into
report of
that. I
some
have a
sort.
note, yeah, I have a note to look into that, so, yeah, I appreciate,
The only thing I'm saying is you should know about it.
yes, sir.
And you should communicate that to us before anybody, that what's going on. And that is certainly not working.
Well, what you're dealing with is personalities, because there are people who walk out of that meeting and start making statements within the hour. And that's not the golf committee's fault.
He's right.
They do publish the minutes. They're generally pretty complete. I mean, we're getting advised if we read our emails, but we can't control what people say and when they say it. I heard the comment made that we were going to enforce 2 people per cart the day of the meeting. And I was told who said it, and I said, they don't have that authority. They don't decide that. It's that simple. they have their followers, they have their believers. So how it gets to us is beyond our control sometimes.
Thank you for all the recommendations, and I'll bring this back to the board here.
Okay. Any public comment?
Good morning, Larry Bertetto. Is that on?
Yes.
For 5 years, I've listened to the restaurant being bad.
Speak a little more into the microphone.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
For 5 years, I've listened to the restaurant being bad. Nothing's changed, apparently. I've listened to how we're going to make this grow. Nothing's happened. Who's accountable? I think if you're going to have a evaluation, and I've always had to have evaluations because I worked for someone, that at a certain time I need to have X number of sales or X number of this or whatever the figure is. We're just saying, okay, I got to do good. That's not an evaluation. You know, we got how many lots over here in Unit 12? What's being done there? I mean, I've heard this for how many years? Oh, we're going to do something. We're going to do something with the marketing plan. Everyone's failed. Is that the general manager's fault? That she has not, or he or she has not gone out and got the appropriate people to run this place, to make it grow? Or have we just looked into the county and tried to hire a friend from the county to do something? You know, I've been here 20 years. In 20 years, when I come off, we looked at, when you come off Ponce de Leon, used to be palm trees, lighted, all taken care of. This district now looks like, in a lot of areas, looks like dog patch. You know what dog patch is?
Some of us do.
You're new. That's what some of these areas look like. And you want to get somebody to come in here and have that, we're not going to succeed until you clean up the place. That's all I've got to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
Can I answer something on that?
No.
Why? I want to go up there and do it then. Right? Right?
I'd rather you didn't.
All right. It's nice to be a tiger and not be, you know.
I have a couple other things.
Okay.
I marked several places on here that Connie and I have had the discussions for 2 years plus, and we've made no progress. Evaluation process, it's a fiasco. The forms are all the same, and the ratings are all the same, and they mean nothing, and yet we haven't changed them. The goal to secure a PGA or other major outside golf event, if I understand the organizational chart, Mike does a report to Tanya. That's a dotted line relationship. So I think that should read, she needs to support Mike's efforts, but Mike needs to be the driver of that, and I think he is pursuing something.
If I would just say that if we're going to change that objective to support, it's really not an objective.
That's fine. I just don't think that falls under.
I'm hearing a lot of objections to that being in the job description as an objective. I mean, in my mind, the general manager is in charge of the entire development.
That's exactly my point, and that's what the organization chart would indicate.
And that securing that kind of an agreement couldn't happen without her support. And that's why I suggested that it be in there as something we should look at. But based on the comments that I'm hearing from the other board members, maybe we should just remove that as an objective.
Oh, I still think it's a kind of objective, but her part in that is with the community and working with Mike Lemire. But the one that she can control is working with the community and enticing them to join us in this adventure, if you will, so that we can put on a Class A show, but not lose money in the process of doing it, just to say that we had a LPGA or a PGA event. We have to make money at it.
Yeah, my question would be, if it's really Mike's responsibility and Billy Casper's responsibility, I don't want them negotiating the deal without our general manager being a part of the negotiation.
And I don't think they should.
Well, I agree on that, yes.
And that's why I think it's the general manager's responsibility to secure it, because she's going to put together whatever program she believes makes sense for the district and bring it to the board. Mike's not going to bring it to board.
No, but she should be getting it from Mike.
Right, and that's why I think it's rightfully in her job description as securing the deal, and she's going to have to work with whoever she has to work with to make that happen. But I think it's appropriate to be in there. But
I can accept that way.
I mean, that was my impetus in putting it there, and asking her to put it in there. What else you got there, Joe?
On the last page, to increase community awareness, aid and beautification, promote healthy living. Somewhat to Larry's point, I can find you 10 intersections today before lunch where the street signs are either windblown to turned over to falling off to on the ground, and we don't seem to give a damn. We got a road supervisor who we're paying top dollar to, who should see every foot of every road in this district once a week. And if he's doing that and he can't see these, then we got the wrong guy in the job. So I won't give you my list, but I would expect those to all be fixed in the month of September, because we'll talk some more about it if it's not. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else on this discussion item? Are you discussing this item? Do we need to?
He was wanting to know what.
I didn't hear, I didn't understand that.
Okay.
He was talking about getting the signs fixed, right?
We're still on the discussion of the general manager job description.
No, I mean, Joe was saying about signs.
He's
Oh.
saying there's signs that need to be, they're turned or they're missing or they're fallen, so we'll take care of those signs.
Yeah, and I think he was making the point that the road supervisor needs to do that, and it needs to be held accountable to the general manager, who either needs to make sure that it's done or find a replacement.
Understood.
Okay. Any further discussion on the job description? Moving on the agenda, add-on items.
None.
Hold-
Oh, sorry.
Just one sec.
Sure.
Either, maybe I was asleep during this, but item B under the consent agenda, by agreeing with the consent agenda, did we?
We approved A and
Did we
B.
take this resolution?
A and B were in the consent agenda.
Okay, that's all I need to know.
Okay.
I do have, before we go forward, when are you going to get back to us with an updated job description or whatever, goals, objectives,
Before the end of the year?
before the end of the year?
Yes, sir. Well, we have one more meeting in September, 2 in October, 1 November, 1 December. So my goal was to get back to you in November with
November?
updates. Yes, sir.
The first meeting in November would be good. I mean, I would like to
I'm good
see
with that. I'm good with that.
Your objectives should outline to us what you intend to accomplish during the fiscal year, October 1 through September 30th, 2021. And that's why it should be made available shortly after the beginning of that year.
Okay. Add-on items, you said none. Petitions and communications?
None.
Staff reports?
Want me to go? Good morning. I have some rough numbers from the golf course and operations for August. We hosted 4,923 rounds. Just for comparison purposes, we did 4,446 rounds last year. Gross revenues were up by about 12,500. We were able to both have labor savings and expense savings. So we are forecasting that we will beat August budget by 46,600. With that gain and what we're trending for in September, we believe that we will achieve the budgeted EBITDA for the year, ending September 30th. And it'll be within $1,000 from what we're looking at. Granted that the weather has to continue so we can have golf. F&B sales were up 32,000 last month. I don't know about over prior year. I don't know. I know we were closed, so it's hard for me to make any things. But our covers are up. I know the staff is being trained. We are going very heavy into getting input from the consumers that are there. We are having staff training throughout. We are bringing in specialists to monitor the operations along with, the menu. For the golf cart RFP, the opening bids start on 9/22, so in 11 days. The current fleet, as Omar mentioned, has a $1 buyout. Initial conversations may get $2,000 a cart for trade-in. That would be higher than I expected. I reached out to the gentleman. If we'd go sales, we would end up at $2,000 anyways if we did personal sales. So if they come in with an RFP bid of $2,000 trade-in, that would be a very good, just for your knowledge, when you see the bids. The warranty with the carts stays with the carts. So in other words, the battery warranty is 4 years or 25,000 amp hours. Currently, we just did last week a evaluation of the fleet. We have between 15,000 amp hours and 19,000 amp hours. We should be averaging roughly about 17,000. So if we just put that in rough numbers, it's about 6,000 amp hours a year. We've had the fleet for 3 years. If we did an average year next year, the batteries will be covered under warranty. Now, if we go, there's some potential issues down the line. In other words, if we go to single-use carts, we're probably going to use those carts more. Instead of going out once a day, they're going out twice a day, so we're going to get to that 25,000 amp hours quicker. If those batteries start to fail, we have to identify them, bring in the company, they then do a battery test, and they only change out one battery at a time. So what we try to do is group them, so when we replace it, we replace all new batteries in a cart. So obviously, there could be some, if we get close to that, they're going to fail. Believe me, the companies know exactly when the batteries are going to fail. There's a reason why there's an amp hours on there. So it's something to monitor and make in your decision choice on what you do when you see the bids. The warranties for the major stuff is 5 years for the frames, things of that nature. The smaller electrical parts are 3 years. So we will be out of warranty here shortly for any solenoids, any speed control monitors, things like that. I did notice on a cart I drove over today that the brakes would not set for the parking brake. That does tend to happen down in Florida. That part is aluminum. It does rust and break. So there'll be some, if we do keep the carts, We may have to discuss an addendum to the budget just to put in some additional repair and maintenance dollars.
I thought we decided on the carts.
We decided that we're probably going to go with the lithium, but we're going to put off the new lease until January while we look at all the capital expense. So whereas the old lease ends the end of September, I think, October or September?
December.
December 31st.
Sorry.
I mean, we budgeted for lithium, correct?
Correct.
Yes.
Yes.
So now we're going to hold on that till January?
I didn't say hold, I'm just giving information that I was asked to give.
You can't.
I'm just asking.
Yeah.
Are we holding on that until January now?
Well, we discussed holding on a new lease and committing to a new lease until then, but we're getting the bids. But he's saying that if we don't continue the lease, we may have some operational issues that we need to address as expense.
I'm trying to give you the information so you can, when you do get the bids, I know it was discussed to keeping the carts for additional periods of time to save some of the lease dollars. Trying to give you information so you can make an educated decision on potential issues out there.
After the first year.
The interest rates on the golf carts obviously fluctuate month to month. If you finance them through Wells Fargo, we're getting about a percentage point less. Their underwriting takes about 2 weeks longer than the regular golf carts, so that should be in your also. We are using Wells Fargo now, so I would recommend that again. We discussed the double car uses that I had on here that I was informed, and I don't have any additional information on that. Obviously, it was under my impression that it was recommended, not mandated, and if, so we would provide single cart uses at request. Any questions?
We need to know whether we can get that 50-cart rental agreement in place.
I have that on my notes that I will reach out to EasyGo, who we have a current lease with, and see about expanding our carts. I think we brought 10 in last year, but we'll definitely need more than that this year.
And I know you're not going to have this information, but I would like a breakdown of the Sertoma outing.
Okay.
The amount of money made on green fees, driving range, beverages, and to the board, or anybody can tell, when did we start agreeing to let these outside outings bring in their own food? Because not only was the firemen's, they had their own food, and Sertoma had their own food, and I know it's been done in the past, but I don't quite understand why we don't require the food to be purchased.
I know we made an exception for the firemen, and we had that discussion at the time. I don't remember.
There was two that we made an exception for.
Is that also true of beverages? Or do they buy the beverages through us?
That I don't know.
Okay, I understand. They're sponsorships, purchasing the beer and wine, water, whatever. But it's not being bought through us. And again, why? I mean, we ought to be getting something. It seems to me we're passing up an opportunity for revenue. I mean, and we can give them a deal on the beer and still make our beer and soda and make money, but just to say we want the outside people to take care of, I don't understand that.
Okay, what I would suggest is if we can have Chrissy dig out the minutes discussion from the prior meeting, and I can't tell you what date it was, that we bring that back for a board discussion at the next meeting on the groups, and we have that discussion again so we can clarify without having to reinvent the wheel.
Jim, that's fine. when I asked Mike how much we made on the firemen, we said we netted $5,000. Now, the Satoma was a 2-day event, and I'm just wanting to know that same breakdown. I know
Understand.
we didn't get anything from the food side because they bring in their own stuff, but I'd like that breakdown.
And that breakdown will be helpful for our discussion.
Yeah, okay. And then, just as a thing that was brought up, in regards to the clubhouse, they had soup the other day, which was very, very, very good. New England clam chowder. The fact is, that's the same stuff they're going to have all week because he only has one soup per week. Yeah, it seemed to me like we ought to be able to offer a different soup every day throughout the week. Just a suggestion.
Thank you. I will bring that up.
Recycle. Yeah, this.
Okay, any other questions on this? Any other staff reports?
Yes, sir. All right. Good morning, Supervisors. Just a couple of quick updates. At our last meeting, when we discussed Silver Sneakers, it was asked how many members we had. I have that updated number, and as of yesterday, we have 39 fitness members who are registered through Silver Sneakers that use our facility. So I just wanted to report back on that.
And how many that are members that don't have Silver Sneakers?
It'd be 40, wouldn't it? Wasn't it 79 total?
I believe so. And then, but I don't think Silver Sneakers is included in that. So that 39 number is in addition to the 79 that it was. Those are
All right.
those are not included because they're not paying.
Okay.
Okay. Update on the Recreation Master Plan survey. Just wanted to let you guys know that as of, again, yesterday afternoon, we had 312 survey responses thus far. It is slated to remain open until October the 2nd, which is a Friday. It was open for 30 days. That way we can get it into the newsletter that goes to print today. Just a little bit of extra promotion to please take our survey that helps us collect information for the Recreation Master Plan.
And have we found a way to accommodate the survey for people that don't have web access?
Yes, so and that'll be in the newsletter as well, that they can go into the recreation office and they can either get a printed version or Kelly or the staff over there would be more than happy to help walk them through it. So on the topic of the Recreation Master Plan, we're trying to look ahead to the public workshop element that goes along with it. So I wanted to get the board's opinion on dates that we may potentially do that. I got confirmation from SNME that they are available either the week of October 4th through the 18th if we wanted to have it as like a standalone workshop, or Tanya had mentioned that we could make that a workshop as a part of the October 23rd board meeting. If we wanted to tack that at the end of the meeting, then we can absolutely do that. So I was just looking for a little bit of direction or opinions on when the board would like to see that.
What exactly are you trying to accomplish at this meeting?
So the recreation, hang on, I have notes on it. The Recreation Master Plan, what this workshop does, I actually just got an email about this. They're going to take the input that they got from the survey along with the input that they got from the board, and it's a public workshop where obviously all residents are encouraged to come, and they're going to be revising the graphic boards like you all saw, and just presenting the information to the public. There is also, I believe they're looking to do like a red dot, green dot exercise is what they said, to kind of say, okay, based on, what the board was looking for, based on what everyone who took this survey kind of communicated that they would like to see in the community, this is a narrowed down scope, I guess, if you will, and then kind of a red dot, green dot exercise where folks can kind of just put in a little bit more input.
Will they be giving us any kind of estimated cost?
Yes, they will. That'll be a part of the actual master plan itself that will come, and that comes to the board. There's a draft.
It'll be broken down, so if we choose A, B, and D, we can figure out what that'll cost.
Yes, sir. So are there any opinions as to a date as to when the board would like to see that? If none,
Well, if the survey's going to go to the 3rd, you're going to be able to collect all the data. I don't think you can do it before the 23rd.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to put it all together, don't you?
Right, so the survey will close on the 2nd. It is mostly, we haven't had anyone who is interested in paper thus far, so it is digital, so it's compiled relatively quickly. It's easy to get the results of that.
They have to interpret it, right, and read it. And
Correct, so it closes on the 3rd. We could potentially be looking at the soonest date of October the 14th, which would give them just shy of 2 weeks. If there's no particular opinion, then I'll be happy just to work with S&ME on a date that works best for him. We can look at our community calendar.
Or we could look at October 23rd as a potential.
Absolutely.
I think
Board-
tacking it onto the board
Yeah,
meeting on
I
the
think so.
23rd makes sense to me.
Great.
I don't care.
so that would be tacked on at the end of a meeting? Is that what we're talking about?
Correct.
Yes.
Any other board opinion on that?
It's fine.
Should be attached to a board meeting.
Okay, awesome. Okay, perfect. Pickleball courts will be closed on Monday morning. There was a news blast sent out. That is so that Welch Tennis can come in and install the new pickleball screens, so that will complete that project for the Racket Club in its entirety. The tennis courts and the pickleball courts will now all have the new wind screens, so we're excited about that. And last update, the shuffleboard equipment that we spoke about at the last meeting has been purchased, has been delivered, currently being tagged so that we can identify it as district property. The company that we got it from was very helpful and made sure that we had what we needed to get started, so we're excited to have that in. That's all.
So what's the opening date for that?
I think Tanya was going to mention that in hers. Okay.
No, you go ahead.
Okay, so as of right now, Marmor has it slated to be finished, it looks like around that first week in October. We get updates every week, and everything has stayed, knock on wood, has stayed on track very well, so it's looking like we should be right on track to open up at the beginning of October.
We're waiting on final inspections to be done by Highlands County as well. That's another part of it, so we will have another update from Marmor next week.
It's very nice. Mr. Hurley took me over to look at it.
It is
It's
very nice.
looks like something we can be proud of. It.
Absolutely.
Okay. Any other staff reports?
So just a quick update. Obviously, today we approved the tentative budget. I'll be bringing the final budget at the next meeting. We'll start working on the budget book in order to get that online. I also want to give an update, as David mentioned, we'll be working here in the next couple of weeks to get the assessment bills out. Wanted to inform the board, we're planning on sending communications every 2 weeks advising all the residents of the new policy change to no longer accept partial payments on issued assessment bills. So just in case you get any phone calls or questions, that will be the new policy that we're going to be pushing here beginning November 1st.
Okay, as long as we were discussing this earlier, clarify for me then, if we're not taking partial payments on assessment bills billed, would that prohibit somebody who has been paying the assessment but not the bond from paying?
Correct.
They would have to pay everything or
Correct.
nothing?
We feel that that's more in line with our responsibility for both ourselves and for the bondholder. As far as our obligation, we should be holding them accountable to that standard anyways.
Okay,
So,
I don't disagree. I'm just concerned.
yeah, it's going to make an impact. We'll keep you updated as to how that changes. Hopefully it makes, there's going to be a wash both ways. Hopefully the other side of that is people just go ahead and pay the full amount. And if not, we have legal avenues that we can pursue. Hopefully we don't have to go down that road, but they are there at our discretion.
Yeah, and it may well help with negotiation on those outstanding bond issues.
Right.
Did I hear you say earlier we have 50 outstanding permits for build?
50 pulled this year so far.
54?
54 pulled this year.
Thank you.
Okay,
I got something I missed from Bryant. I didn't ask you. I want to know about the food carts. Are we fixing them, or I heard they're both broke down?
The beverage carts?
Yeah, beverage carts.
That's news to me. I have not heard that, so I will follow up.
Well, they've been driving around for over a week in a Gator,
Okay.
maybe 2 weeks. I heard one caught on fire and the other one broke down. So
The old one.
I mean, it's just So just
Not us.
for your information, since you don't know about it, but,
I would think if it was a fire, I'd heard about it, but
okay.
Plus, every day we go out there, there's a new cart girl. It's amazing. We're hiring people every day.
But just let us know about it.
will do.
Okay.
Real quick, I'll go. We had about 400 watch orders last month. We found 3 doors open once again. Joe? Okay. We also had a chase through Sun and Lake. I don't know if you guys heard about it.
I need you to back up because I heard something about you found 3 doors open. But
We found 3 doors open in the watch orders.
Okay.
Okay, a watch, right. You know, obviously we they weren't broken into, they were just left open by somebody that checked it or whoever, or the people left and didn't do it. But we also had to chase through Sun and Lake, over 100 miles an hour. I don't know how many guys heard about it. It was on Columbus, 8 sheriff's cars. I think it started in Avon Park and it came through Sun and Lake. There was nobody hurt. They got the guy on Columbus. So, I mean, a lot of people did call about that, what was going on. So if you hear, you know, it was domestic or something, I don't know. Citations, we sent out 80 last month. And besides that, everything's been pretty quiet.
How are we coming on the, excuse me, the speed bumps for Barbarossa?
They've been ordered. We ordered them. Okay, I actually talked to the company yesterday, and they expect to be here sometime next week.
Next week?
Yeah.
Can you, at the next meeting, give us an update on this, this machine that we bought?
Mm-hmm.
I assume you're using it all throughout Sun and Lake,
Yes,
right?
yes. Matter of fact, we used it this week on Edgewater. I had complaints from the residents that people were speeding. We did put it out. We put it, I think it's been out for 6 days. I asked Bob actually yesterday, and 56% of the vehicles going down Edgewater are speeding.
So, do we do,
Go ahead.
would you recommend that we do something about it, or
Well,
we're just capturing
people are
information?
asking for speed bumps on Edgewater, so we just jumped ahead and got it out there to do a report on it.
I mean, we don't have to wait for somebody to petition us. If, with this machine, we know that there's a problem.
Correct, and that's why we jumped ahead on it. You know, and I'll go to Tanya and let her know. The worst 2 streets, I was talking to the sheriff's department, the worst 2 streets here in Sun and Lake are Edgewater and Columbus Boulevard for people speeding. Obviously, Columbus has some speed bumps now. Edgewater doesn't. So, I mean, I know there's going to be a petition because the 2 people that called me said that there was one started. I didn't know anything about it, but so we put the sign over there. So we do move the sign around, you know, for that information, and it's actually working pretty good.
Okay, well, so next meeting, if you would give us an update and a recommendation, if there is one.
Okay, yep, I will.
And I think the add-on there is, if the sign is indicating there are problems, we don't need to wait for petitions. You can recommend to Tanya that we
Yes.
bring a bump to the board.
Okay. And it would probably be better for everybody anyways if we did it that way.
Yeah.
I mean, it's worked out really well, so. I mean, 56% of the cars going down Edgewater are speeding, you know.
That's a good indication.
And it doesn't register until it's like 4 or 5 miles an hour over anyways, so they're going pretty good.
And then the follow-up to that would be, why don't we have a sheriff there more often?
Well, we had him out here this morning, and I went by him 3 times, and he and everybody stopped, so.
I went by one on Ponce de Leon the other day, and as soon as we got past him, the car behind me passed me.
Yeah.
Just out of curiosity, how are you doing watch orders? Did you hire someone, or?
Well, we actually hired someone to help Dan, in the beginning because he was been going away, and it's worked out really good. It's a school teacher from Avon Park, and he's also lives here in the district. He's actually doing a great job, and because he tells me that every day how good he is, so I know he's doing good. But I mean, he does a great job. He's very personable. He does some after like 4 or 5 o'clock, so you may see him riding around because now he's back to school, and he also does it on weekends. He's an ex-football coach, I think. But I mean, I'm really happy with him because he's, his paperwork's in there, and he's very personable with everybody he speaks to. So, and that's kind of what we want. So, thank you.
Okay. General Counsel report.
Litigation and foreclosure reports will be at the next board meeting, but we do need to have a quick little discussion about some potential litigation regarding our water meter issue. We've been in touch with Scott Lacconi, the attorney that we go to generally for litigation matters. He sent a couple of nasty letters to Avanti regarding breach of warranty. My understanding from Omar, and he can probably talk more to it, but they came out and replaced 400 water meters, and the number of no reads we have went up instead of down. So we believe it is time to start seriously pursuing litigation to bring them into compliance with, or for breach of contract, basically. Omar, I don't know if you want to give more details on that.
Yeah, just to give kind of a recap and kind of some background, the last time that we actually went to RFP for a new system, our reads and our no reads were at a point where we were having about 1,000 meters go bad. We are now at that point with this brand new system that is still under warranty. We're constantly going out, replacing new units with faulty devices and software that they keep providing. And this has been going on for at least 2 years. We've met with the president and vice president in person twice. We're at the point where we're just not making any headway. So we're strongly recommending to the board approve for us to move forward with litigation, as well as allow us to go and look for alternative options for a new system and see what those costs will be to the district. Part of that will require us to go out and to see if we can use an SRF loan, which is a state revolving fund loan at 0% interest, and maybe amortize that over 10 years so we don't have that full cost up front. But we can't continue to operate with the amount of failures that we're getting month to month. We're going to be at 50% here by the end of the year based on the current numbers that we have now. So once again, they did come out and do 400 installation and swaps, and it made no impact to the system.
So
How much would you estimate a new system would cost?
So this system that's currently in place, I believe it was just over $1 million.
Over $1 million.
What?
It was just over $1 million for the system that we have in place. Once again, this was kind of proposed a state-of-the-art AMI system, which gives you cellular reads and everything's kind of dynamic. There are cheaper softwares where you do a drive-by, which is what we initially had, and that lasted us for, I want to say it was over 20 years that we had that original system before we switched to the AMI system. So we're going to do some research based on the board's recommendation here to see if there's other governments that have recently gone out to RFP, maybe issued both an AMI and a drive-by system, and see what options are out there, and then come back to the board with recommendations as far as direction to go down that road.
Just playing devil's advocate, is this one of these situations where we took the lowest bidder and it came back and bid us?
Yes.
Do we have any recourse going forward that somebody told me we have to take the lowest bid all the time?
Can I research that? I think this was only one bid.
I think it was
only a one
it was
bid
only one
situation.
Right, it was.
It was back in 2013, but it was only a one bid.
And it was a local contractor.
It was issued twice. This RFP was
Issued
shot down
twice,
the first
one bid.
time,
And we
then
accepted
approved.
the one bid?
The board at that time.
I thought we can't do that either.
Yes, you
Oh, we can
can.
do that?
Absolutely.
So now it's going to cost us an extra $1 million. Okay.
No, well, we're not recommending the same type of system. Like Omar said, for 20 years, we had a drive-by system, and I think a lot of governments do have that, and it works. But the meters are only guaranteed or warranted for 10 years. So after 10 years, what we were seeing is that we had almost 1,000 meters where we could no longer use the system anymore. They had to be manually read, so we knew we needed a new system at that point. So even though we did have, the software for 20 years, the meters, they do start to go bad. So we're not recommending the same type of AMI system. We're going to be looking at more of a drive-by system. Yes, sir.
So we're still talking $1 million, right?
Well, hopefully through,
we don't
once
know.
again, if we approve the litigation, hopefully Mueller steps to the table. They do have, all of our products are under warranty right now, full warranty for 10 years. They've come with a proposal for their brand system, and the transition to that system would be $500,000. Hopefully they come to the table and make that swap for us and part of the negotiation, but once again, we need to pursue something to get the ball moving.
That would be my question. What is the goal of litigation, and what's the likelihood of being successful?
Well, the goal is a functional system, and so that's what I think I would recommend at this point is we get board consensus right now that litigation is approved, but we still give them, basically we have a drop dead date that says you need to figure out how we're going to have a functional system by such and such a date, and my recommendation would be the end of this month, no later than the end of this month. And if they can't put together a proposal to make that happen within that timeline, we tell Mr. Lacconi to file suit, with the intent to be that we're going to sue because we have a non-functioning system that we paid $1 million for.
Okay, so we'd be suing them for $1 million?
For $1 million, at least. Not to mention that would be, my conversation with Mr. Lacconi, it was either Wednesday or yesterday. We don't have to define specifically what the amount is that we're suing for. We just say damages, and then we later on prove it because, like I say, how much money have we lost through this non-functional system over the course of the 4 or 5 years that's been being used, or 7 years now, that we haven't been getting accurate reads. So what has the district lost in unrecovered utility funds and in hours that we've spent driving around in order to get try to get the reads.
Right. And if the litigation got response, what would be the ideal response? That they would put in this non-AMI system at no cost to us?
Correct. That would be, I think that if that was offered to us, that'd be something I'd recommend we accept, as opposed to move forward with full-scale litigation.
And is there reason to accept that their non-AIM system is going to work better than their AMI?
Oh, we'd have to have a warranty. A warranty would be part of it.
Yeah, but
that's what's saving us right now is we have an active warranty.
Yeah, except my understanding is we've got the warranty, but it's really not doing us any good.
Right. So to Mueller's point, they have an annual conference. So we've attended the conference the last 2 or 3 years, and when you show up, there's a Mueller section, which is their brand product. And then there's a KP system, which they acquired, but isn't their brand. We have the KP brand, and there's probably 10 attendees that have that function, that system that doesn't work, and they kind of put us in this one secluded room, and there's probably 150 Mueller product, vendors or communities that have that system, and none of which have a complaint. There's a huge ballroom for them with presentations for them, and we get treated like the ugly stepchild. But so their system is working. There's proof that other communities and other entities are using that system and not having the problems that we're having with the KP program. So I think there's more validation to their brand and their product. I think they made a bad investment in this KP acquisition, and that's what's causing this warranty problem.
And if all things were equal and we had to go out and just buy a new system right now, the Mueller system would cost $500,000 $1 million, or
no, so it probably costs way more than that. They just gave us the $500,000 as a kind of you call it good faith effort to try and make the transition to their product.
Okay, so what would a Mueller system cost if we were just?
That's what that's the next step, is trying to find out other governments that issued RFPs and come back with numbers, or we'll have to issue an RFP again to find out what that's going to cost us, and then that can be part of the litigation request, is to cover that cost.
Because worst case, we're under warranty for 10 years, but we're going to be out of warranty in 3 years, in which case we'll have no value. Well, I would certainly support come to the table or we'll litigate. I guess the fact that they've got a successful line with Mueller gives me more confidence that they're not going to file bankruptcy to get out of whatever liability they have with us. So yeah, I would support litigation if that's what it's going to take to get them to the table. Anybody else from the board?
I concur.
I would agree.
Yep.
Why don't you have your concurrence?
All right, I'll talk to Mr. Laconi, and we'll get moving forward on it.
Okay.
That's all I have unless there's questions.
Okay. I'm trying to remember because I know it's the general manager's report. I'm just trying to figure out whether we should have an official announcement. We kind of, did we announce at the last meeting about the county approving, or did we just send out an email?
Oh, no, yeah. We got official approval for the ordinance modifying the voting procedure. So what was that meeting, Tanya, a week ago?
Yeah, I think it was last Tuesday.
It was approved, yeah.
On that same issue,
September 1st.
Yeah, September 1st.
September 1st.
in regards to that particular issue, in the paper, when it was reported, it said that if one of us is appointed, then we have to run in the next general election.
Correct.
But if we're keeping the landowner seats, if a person is appointed to a landowner, if he runs in the general election, that just made it a popular seat.
Yeah, so that's I guess that was a misquote by the paper. So the way it would work now is, the way it currently works is if a landowner seat is vacated, then that seat can be filled by the board, or it's filled at the next landowner meeting, that occurs every year.
Okay.
So with popular seats, general elections are every 2 years.
Okay, thank you.
Another case in the newspaper having a headline that was really misleading.
See, I didn't realize it was the newspaper that had said that. I knew you were asking. I'm thinking, I don't know, but that was just another. It was in the paper. Okay.
That it was wrong.
All right.
Okay. General manager's report.
Yes. Good morning. I have a few updates. In Highlands County, they received monies in regards to for the coronavirus. It's called the CARES Act. The CARES Act was for individuals and businesses to apply for. As a district, we also were able to tap into these funds. We will be receiving about $8,000 in reimbursements from the county on supplies regarding hand soap, sanitizers. We have stations where they're touchless stations. You're going to see that in the restrooms here. So just as a good news, we were able to tap into some funds, and it's going to be throughout the district. Restaurant, we've bought supplies for all of our facilities. Restrooms, the restaurant would also apply. So accounting, we received most of this stuff, I think, already. So Mike Hurley's staff, they're working through getting the installs done for us. Over the next week or so, you're going to be seeing some front entrance landscaping improvements, signage improvements. If you haven't noticed already, the front entrance has already been, they worked on the removal of all the old plantings and some of the old irrigation yesterday. So as far as I know, we're on schedule for those trees next Wednesday, unless that changes. Yeah. So we're very excited to see those front entrance improvements here over the next week. And then the last thing I have, we have set the date for the community forum for the Board of Supervisor candidates. The date is Monday, September 28th. We'll have it at the Island View Restaurant. The meeting itself will start at 6:30. We have publicly advertised that as a meeting, and minutes will be taken. We'll be advertising that through Facebook, email, or e-blast. We've put together some flyers and we'll also have that in the newsletter for this upcoming utility bills.
And just to clarify that because it's a public meeting that will have minutes, it resolves any sunshine issues.
Absolutely it does. Yes, sir. That's all I have.
Is there a reason why we have to do it that way?
Yes.
Yeah, because we have two sitting supervisors that are up for reelection, as well as a third party that's up. So in order to, there's a potential for things to be discussed that may eventually come to the board for a vote, and so just to be 100% sure we're in compliance with sunshine.
And if it wasn't done that way, those of us that aren't there as candidates couldn't be there, because we might hear something.
So
Well,
now,
I'll tell you.
so now all of you are welcome to be there. So,
Who's in charge of this state?
that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I have some questions for Tanya.
Cool.
Tanya, yesterday we talked, did you get an update yet of the amount of lots that have been sold as far as through the county? Dollar amounts? I know it was I told you both, it was 1.5 million the last time, but I know there's been a lot more.
Yes, as yesterday, they had another sale, so I don't have that sale information as of yesterday. So at the next board meeting, I'll give you an update. I'll have an update for you.
Okay. And did you or Omar get the RFP on the website? It was supposed to be put on there, I know.
Let's see if that's, should be today, is the published date for the newspaper, so it should be on today, on both online and in the papers.
Okay. Just make sure we do that, because I think it's stated that it's there, and
Correct.
we passed it last week,
Correct.
so.
Yeah.
It is online.
Yeah, they're both on there. So we
Okay.
have the golf cart fleet and the operation.
And would somebody let the public know that the two-cart deal is not a given? I mean, that's going to be
It's not mandatory.
you're gonna put it out?
We're going to do,
Yeah, that's it. Ryan said he'd do it.
Okay, well,
Yep. I mean, obviously, Mike will put it out, we'll put it out in an email, to, try to clear it up, that it's not mandatory, it's just recommended.
okay.
Put a big sign at Pro Shop.
That will happen
Make
too.
sure the staff knows it.
So,
yes.
so that there is no confusion, it would probably be helpful to just run that, whatever announcement is going to be made past Tanya, to be sure that Tanya
Yeah.
has approved it before it
Will
goes
do.
out to the public. Thank you.
And it's pertaining to that, Tanya, but can we make sure that we're legal by what they've already done? As far as asking people to ride to? I mean, is it okay
We're
to
not in violation of any health issues.
just make sure we're not in violation? Because
Understood.
from what I read, from what the governor said, and I don't care what other clubs are doing, I just don't want us to be, and I bet 2 or 3 people that have called me and asked me to make sure that we're not just doing something because we want to.
Understood.
Yeah, be good to clarify. I think my understanding is that the state has not made a specific mandate in regards to the use of golf carts, but
They have not.
Just-
Yeah, well,
They have
I
not.
just don't want somebody to get it and then
Right.
come back
I
and sue us.
understand.
That's, just so we're legal.
I understand.
I think that's all I have for you.
okay.
Thank you.
Anything else for the general manager?
No, sir.
Okay, unfinished business,
None?
new business,
None?
committee reports,
None?
public comments. Anybody from the public can make a comment at this point.
Once again, Mark Camp, resident. I know that it was already mentioned just a few minutes ago about the board getting, or I should say the Highlands County commissioners passing the ordinance, the new ordinance for the voting, and I think that's a great, great thing. I think it works out as beneficial to everybody. It gives the people who are snowbirds, who aren't really legally voters here, the ability to vote in a landowner seat, therefore having representation. Since they pay a fair amount in assessments, I think that was the right thing to do, and I applaud the board for doing that. It also takes a little bit of what was quoted by one of the residents, the 800-pound gorilla, out of the picture. No longer will there be 235,000 votes from one entity. It's down to, I guess, one parcel and one vote. And that's an outstanding thing. I know there was a lot of conversation that went back and forth. How do we best handle this? Do we do away with it? What do we come up with? I know our attorney had some comments about, well, you can't do this or you can't do that. And there was a lot of give and take. I really would like to recognize, and I know everybody worked on this, some worked maybe a little different than the others. I'd really like to recognize Supervisor Brooks for his tenacity. He's the guy that came up, I believe, going back and reading the minutes and listening to the audio, to do the one parcel, one vote. And I also know that several of you had to concur with that to get it through, so it got to the county. I want to recognize also David Schumacher for his work in bringing it to the county and kind of selling that idea, because I think it was important. So once again, I thank the board for all of that. We have a tendency to have a lot of bad news. I think this is all good news. And then finally, I know Tanya just mentioned it, and I'm happy to hear that there's a tentative plan to do the meet and greet that was requested. I'm informed about some of the potential details on it, and I'm definitely looking forward to it, and I hope that we get the message out to as many residents as we can, so we got a little more than 3 or 4 people showing up. But I think it's important, and once again, thank you.
Any other public comment? Seeing none, bring it back to board.
Yeah, I got a question. Somebody sent me an email, and I don't have the answer to this. They said that, their question is that the county apparently collects in gas tax millions of dollars and then gives it back to, I guess, like Lake Placid, Avon Park. They give it back to them, but for some reason, we don't qualify for that.
Right.
No.
Is that
Right.
Is that true?
That is true.
That's true.
No, that's not true.
Huh?
That is not true. We do qualify. They just have ignored us.
You don't get anything.
I think it's a point where we know who our new county commissioner will be. We need to make sure he understands that we are the 3rd largest voting entity in the county. We have more than 3 times as many registered voters as Lake Placid. So it's important that they not only recognize us, but include us in that when they parcel out that money for infrastructure, and that's what it's for.
So, I'm sorry, is it true? It's true that we don't get the money? That's true?
It's true.
That is true.
Is it somewhat true that we may qualify for the money?
No, it has nothing to do with that. They just haven't bothered to discuss it. They've just done what they always do. But if we can get the commissioner who becomes our representative and the 3 at-large commissioners on board, that would be fairly easy to change. And I think if they are given to understand what the voting power is here, there's a good chance we can do that. But there's no point in starting a conversation now with all the turnover we're going to have at the commissioner level. So I think it becomes a task of the next board. But yeah, you're right. It's an opportunity that has just been passed over for our interest, and it's ridiculous.
All right, somebody help me.
Okay, so maybe what we can do is have council and general manager get back to us with a report on how that process works, because obviously there's some difference of opinion as to our eligibility for that money.
We can do that.
Can you talk, David, do you know why we're not getting it at this point?
My current understanding is that it's because we are not a municipality.
We don't qualify for gas tax funding that is collected within the county and remitted. It's only remitted to the municipalities, again, like Placid, Avon Park, and Sebring. So we will put together the Florida statute information for you and forward it to you.
Okay, is it something we might want to ask the county, since we got away with 1, maybe go for 2?
Give it a shot.
I mean, if it's an opportunity, worst thing they can say is no, right?
Correct. Yeah, I would say let's get briefed on what the law is,
Okay.
and then figure out if it's something we can approach.
I didn't know it was true to begin with. I just got this email. So. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other board to board?
Yeah, I just said, just to say that I agree with Mark. I'm very happy that we passed that. And I've probably gotten 10 calls from Canadians and snowbirds that are my friends. There is some damage been done, but I think that will pass. That the majority of the board was willing to take away their vote, but I said that's all right. So I commend us getting it done the way it was. But there'll be some sour grapes until we get this worked through and they all get their vote down. But they were more concerned about losing their right. So I think I think all 5 of us are happy, but the public isn't totally behind because they thought they were offended that they were going to take somebody was going to take their vote away. So I commend that it was done. So I just wanted that, and I think Craig concurs too. So
Keep in mind, it hasn't been approved by the state yet.
so everybody should be happy now. Everybody.
This is very light. This is, it's been brought up to me before, and I've looked at it a few times, about flying all of the state flags in our clubhouse area. There's 5 beams, if you will, where you could actually set these state flags. It helps in deflecting noise. I kind of think it would look kind of impressive. I looked at it the other day to see if it would affect the lights. It doesn't appear like it would affect the lighting at all. And I did happen to go on Amazon to find out, what kind of cost we're talking about for 50 state flags, and it was between $400 and $500 just for the flags. Of course, then somebody's going to have to sit there and hang them in a professional manner. But it's just something I think it'd look good in there, and it would help deflect some of the noise from what I understand. So just think about that. That's for later on down the road.
Where? Outside?
No, inside where those wood beams are,
Hanging from the ceiling?
hanging from the ceiling.
I would simply add that if you're going to hang the state flags, you're going to have Canadians and perhaps some other countries want their national flags there as part of the
Yeah, I
display as well.
understood that. But this happens to be the United States. Not that we couldn't, I'm just suggesting that it's...
When we're supporting the Canadians being able to vote in the United States, it's pretty hard.
Well, we already fly their flag for 1 month out of the year.
Reluctantly.
And I don't understand, I guess we used to fly the flag along with ours, and then that offended somebody, and so now during the month of January, we fly it with our flag, but then we take it down. So I don't quite understand all of that either.
It's called politics, isn't it wonderful?
Yeah.
Any other board? Seeing none, I think we're ready to adjourn.
My goodness.
God, can you believe? Yeah.